Hello, everyone. Welcome to IE's adaptation of A Doll's House, a play that, sorry, not to get into spoilers, but a play that explores the themes of self-discovery and self-fulfillment. Now, in order to ensure that our actors back there can perform as best as they possibly can without distraction, I need you guys to keep your phones on silent and keep them tucked away in your pockets. That also means, of course, that flash photography is strictly prohibited. There will be intermission halfway through the play, during which you can either use the bathrooms over there to down the hallway, or you can purchase snacks and beverages from the concession stands over there. Now, please laugh when you feel appropriate. There are funny moments in this play, I promise you. And enjoy the show.
Hide the Christmas tree carefully, Helen. Be sure the children do not see it till later this evening when it is dressed. Oh. How much?
6 pence.
Well, there is a shilling. Oh, no, keep the change.
Thank you.
Yes, he is in.
Is that my little lark twittering out there?
Yes, it is.
Is it my little squirrel bustling about?
Yes.
When did my squirrel come home?
Just now. Come in here, Torvald, and see what I've bought.
Don't disturb me. What? Did you say? All of these things. Has my little spendthrift been wasting money again?
Yes, but this year we can really let ourselves go a little. It is the first Christmas we have not needed to economize.
Still, you know we can't spend money recklessly.
Yes, but we may be just a wee bit more reckless, mayn't we? You are going to have a big salary and earn lots of money.
Yes, after the new year, but then it'll be a whole quarter before the salary's due.
We can borrow till then.
Nora, the same little featherhead. Suppose now that I borrow £50 today and you spend it all over the Christmas week, then on New Year's Eve a slate fell on my head and killed me and...
Don't say such horrid things.
Still, suppose that happened. What then?
If that were to happen, I don't suppose I should care whether I owed money or not.
Yes, but what about the people who had lent it?
They? Who should bother about them? I should not know who they were.
That is like a woman. But seriously, Nora, you know what I think about that. No debt, no borrowing. There can be no freedom or beauty about a home life that depends solely on borrowing and debt. We, too, have kept bravely on the straight road so far, and we will continue on the same way for the short time longer that there need be any struggle.
As you please, Torvald.
Come, my little skylark must not droop her wings. What is this? Is my little squirrel out of temper? Nora, what do you think I've got here?
Money!
There you are. Do you think I don't know what a lot is wanted for housekeeping at Christmas time?
10 shillings, a pound, 2 pounds. Oh, thank you, Torvald. That will keep me going for quite a long time.
Indeed it must.
Yes, it will. But come over here. Let me show you what I've bought. Look, here's a new dress for Clara, and a tea set for Alice, and a doll and Dolly's bedstead for little Emmy and Lucy. They are quite plain, but anyway, the twins will soon break them into pieces. And here are the dress lengths and handkerchiefs for the maids. Well, then really ought to have something better.
And what is in this parcel?
Oh, no, you mustn't see that till later this evening.
Very well. But now tell me, you extravagant little person, what would you like for yourself?
For myself? Oh, I'm sure I don't want anything.
Yes, but you must. Tell me something reasonable you would particularly like to have.
I really can't think of anything. Unless, Torvald.
Well,
if you really wanted to get me something, you might...
Well, out with it.
You might give me money, Torvald. Only just as much as you can afford. And then one of these days I will buy something with it.
Oh, Nora.
Oh, do, dear Torvald. Please do. And then I'll wrap it up in beautiful gilt paper and hang it up on the Christmas tree. Doesn't that sound like fun?
What are little people called who are always wasting money?
Spendthrifts, I know. let us do as you suggest, Torvald, and then I shall have time to think about what I'm most in want of. That is a very sensible plan, isn't it?
Indeed it is. That is to say, if you were really to save out of the money I give you and then really buy something for yourself. But if you spend it all on the housekeeping and any number of unnecessary things, then I merely have to pay up again.
It's a shame to say that. I really do save all I can.
That's very true. All you can, but you can't save anything.
You haven't any idea how many expenses we Skylarks and Squirrels have, Torvald.
You're an odd little soul. Very like your father. You always find some new way of wheedling money on me, and once you have got it, it seems to melt in your hands. Still, you know, one must take you as you are. It is in the blood, for indeed it is true you can inherit such things, Nora.
I wish I'd inherited many of Papa's qualities.
And I would not wish you to be anything but just what you are, my little Skylark. But do you know what strikes me that you were looking rather, what shall I say, rather uneasy today?
Do I?
You do really look straight at me.
Well,
Hasn't Miss Sweettooth been breaking rules in town today?
no, what makes you say that?
Hasn't she paid a visit to the confectioner's?
No, I assure you,
Not been nibbling sweets?
No, certainly not.
Not even taking a bite out of a macaroon or two?
No, I assure you, Torvald.
There, of course I was only joking.
I should not think of going against your wishes.
No, I'm sure of that. Besides, you gave me your word. Keep your little Christmas secrets to yourself, my darling. They will all be revealed tonight when the Christmas tree is lit, no doubt.
Did you remember to invite Dr. Rank?
No, but there is no need. As a matter of course, he will come to dinner with us. However, I will ask him when he comes in this evening. I've ordered some good wine. Nora, you can't think how I'm looking forward to this evening.
So am I, and how the children will enjoy themselves, Torvald.
It is splendid to feel that one has a perfectly safe appointment and a big enough income. It's delightful to think of, isn't it?
It's wonderful.
Do you remember last Christmas? For a full 3 weeks beforehand, you shut yourself up every evening until long after midnight, making ornaments for the Christmas tree and all the other fine things that were to be a surprise for us. It's the dullest 3 weeks I ever spent.
I didn't find it dull.
But there was precious little result, Nora.
Oh, you shouldn't go and tease me about that again. How would I help the cats going in and tearing everything into pieces?
Of course you couldn't, poor little girl. You had the best of intentions to please us all, and that's the main thing. But still, it's a good thing that our hard times are over.
It really is wonderful.
This time, I needn't sit here and be dull all alone, and you needn't ruin your dear eyes and your pretty little hands.
No, I needn't any longer, need I, Torvald? It's wonderfully lovely to hear you say so. But now I will tell you how I've been thinking we ought to arrange things. As soon as Christmas is over... Do you hear that? Sounds like someone's at the door. What a nuisance.
If it is caller, remember, I'm not at home.
A lady to see you, ma'am? A stranger?
Ask her to come in.
The doctor came in at the same time, sir.
Did he go straight into my room?
Yes, sir.
How do you do, Nora?
How do you do?
You don't recognize me, I suppose?
No, I don't know. Yes, to be sure, I seem to... Oh, Christine! Is it really you?
Yes, it is I.
Oh, to think of my not recognizing you, Christine. And yet again, how could I? How you've altered, Christine.
Yes, I have indeed. In 10 long years.
Is it really so long since we last met? I suppose it is. And now you've come into town and taken this long journey in winter. That was plucky of you.
I arrived by steamer this morning.
To have some fun at Christmas time, of course. How delightful. We will have such fun. But come in here and take off your things. You must sit down on the couch and we shall be quite cozy. Now you look much more like yourself again, Christine. It really was just the first moment. You are a little paler, perhaps, and perhaps a little thinner.
And much, much older, Nora.
Oh, perhaps just a bit. Certainly not much. But how thoughtless of me, chattering away like this. My dear Christine, you must forgive me.
What do you mean, Nora?
Dear Christine, you are a widow.
Yes, it is 3 years ago now.
Yes, I saw it in the papers. Oh, Christine, I meant ever so often to write to you at the time, but I kept putting it off and something always prevented me.
I quite understand, dear.
It was very bad of me, Christine. Poor thing, how you must have suffered. And he left you nothing?
No.
And no children?
No.
Nothing at all, then?
Not even any sorrow or grief to live upon.
But Christine, is that possible?
It sometimes happens, dear.
So you are quite alone, then? How dreadfully sad that must be. I have 4 little children myself. But you mustn't see them now, for they're out with their nurse. But now you must tell me all about it.
No, I want to hear about you.
No, you must go first. Today I mustn't be selfish. Today I must only think of your affairs. But there is one thing I must tell you. Do you know we have just had a great piece of good luck?
No, what is that?
Just fancy, my husband has been made manager of the bank.
Your husband? What good luck?
Yes, tremendous. A barrister's profession is such an uncertain thing, especially if he won't undertake unsavory cases, and naturally Torvald never was one to do so. I quite agree with him. But you can imagine how pleased we are, Christine. He is to take up his work in the new year, and then he will have a big salary and lots of commissions. Oh, it would be wonderful to have heaps of money and not need to have any anxiety. Won't it, Christine?
Yes. Anyhow, I think it would be delightful to have what one needs.
But not just what one needs, but heaps and heaps of money.
Nora, haven't you learned sense yet? In our school days, you're a great spendthrift.
Yes, that is what Torvald says now, but Nora is not so silly as you may think. We have not been in a position for me to waste money. We have both had to work.
You too?
Yes, odds and ends, needlework, crochet work, embroidery, and that kind of thing. And other things as well. You know, Torvald left his office when we were married. There was no prospect of promotion there, and he had to try and earn more than before. But during the first year, he overworked himself dreadfully. You see, he had to make money every way that he could, so he worked day and night, but felt dreadfully ill. The doctor said it was necessary for him to go south.
You spent a whole year in Italy, didn't you?
Yes, and it was by no means an easy matter to get away with. It was just after little Clara was born, but naturally we had to go. It was a wonderfully beautiful journey, Christine, and it saved my husband's life. But it cost a tremendous lot of money.
So I should think.
It cost about £250. That's a lot, isn't it?
Yes, and in emergencies like that, it is lucky to have the money.
I ought to tell you we had it from Papa.
I see. It was just about that time that he died, wasn't it?
Yes, and just think of it. I couldn't go and nurse him. I'd been expecting little Clara's birth every day, and I had my poor sick Torvald to take care of. My dear kind father, I never saw him again, Christine. That was the saddest time I've known since our marriage.
I know how fond you were of him. And then you went off to Italy?
Yes, you see, we had the money then, and doctors insisted on our going, so we started a month later.
And your husband came back quite well.
As sound as a bell.
But the doctor?
What doctor?
I thought your maid said the gentleman who arrived here just as I did was the
Oh,
doctor.
yes, that was Dr. Rank, but he doesn't come here professionally. He is Torvald's greatest friend and comes here once every day. No, Torvald has not had an hour's illness since then, and our children are strong and healthy, and so am I. Oh, Christine, it's a good thing to be alive and happy. But how horrid of me! I'm talking of nothing but of my own affairs. Christine, you must forgive me. You mustn't be angry with me. Tell me, is it true that you did not love your husband? Why did you marry him?
My mother was alive then, and was bedridden and helpless. And I had to provide for my two younger brothers, so I did not think I was justified in refusing his offer.
No, perhaps you were quite right. He was rich at that time then.
I believe he was quite well off, but his business was a precarious one, and when he died, it all went to pieces and there was nothing left.
And then?
Well, I had to turn my hand to anything I could find. First a small shop, then a small school, and so on. The last 3 years have seemed like one long working day with no rest. Now, it is at an end, Nora. My poor mother needs me no more, for she is gone. And the boys do not need me either. They've got situations and can shift for themselves.
What a relief you must feel now.
No, indeed. I only feel my life unspeakably empty. No one to live for. That was why I could not stand the life of my little backwater any longer. I hope it may be easier here to find something which will busy me and occupy my thoughts. If only I could have the good luck to get some regular work. Office work of some kind.
But Christine, that is so frightfully tiring. And while you look tired out now, you'd far better go off to some watering place.
I have no father to give me money for a journey, Nora.
Oh, don't be angry with me.
It is you that must not be angry with me, dear. The worst of a position like mine is that it makes one so bitter. No one to work for, and yet obliged to be always on the lookout for chances. One must live, and so one becomes selfish. When you had told me of the happy turn your fortunes have taken, you will hardly believe it. I was not delighted so much in your account as on my own.
How do you mean? Oh, I suppose you mean that perhaps Torvald could get you something to do.
Yes, that was what I was thinking of.
He must, Christine. Just leave it to me. I will broach the subject very cleverly. I will think of something that will please him very much. Oh, Christine, it will make me so happy to be of some use to you.
How kind you are, Nora, to be so anxious to help me. It is doubly kind in you, for you know so little of the burdens and troubles of life.
I know so little of them?
My dear, small household cares and that sort of thing. You're a child, Nora.
You ought not to be so superior.
No?
You are just like all the others. They all think I'm incapable of anything really serious.
Come.
And I've gone through nothing in this world of cares.
But my dear Nora, you have just told me all your troubles.
Those were just trifles. I have not told you the important thing.
The important thing? What do you mean?
You look down upon me altogether, Christine, but you ought not to. You are proud, aren't you, of having worked so long and so hard for your mother?
Indeed, I don't look down on anyone. But it is true that I'm both proud and glad to think I was privileged to make the end of my mother's life almost free from care.
And you are proud to think of what you have done for your brothers.
I think I have the right to be.
I think so too. But listen to this. I too have something to be proud and glad of.
I have no doubt you have. But what do you refer to?
Speak low. Suppose Torvald were to hear. He mustn't on any account, Christine. Nobody in the world must know, except for you.
But what is it?
Come here. Now I will show you that I too have something to be proud and glad of. It was I who saved Torvald's life.
Saved? How?
I told you about our trip to Italy. Torvald never would have recovered if we'd not gone there.
Yes, but your father gave you the necessary funds.
Yes, that is what Torvald and all the others think. But Papa didn't give us a shilling. It was I who procured the money.
You? All that large sum?
All £250. What do you think of that?
But, Nora, how could you possibly do it? Did you win a prize in the lottery?
The lottery? There would have been no credit in that.
But where did you get it from then? Because you couldn't have borrowed it.
Couldn't I? Why not?
No, a wife cannot borrow without her husband's consent.
But if it's a wife who has a bit of a head for business, a wife who has the wit in it to be a little bit clever...
I don't understand it at all, Nora.
There's no reason why you should understand. I never said I borrowed the money. Perhaps I got it some other way. Perhaps from some other admirer. When anyone is as attractive as I am...
You're a mad creature.
Oh, come now, you know you're full of curiosity.
Listen to me, Nora. Haven't you been a little bit imprudent?
Is it imprudent to save your husband's life?
It seems to be imprudent without his knowledge to...
But it was absolutely necessary that he not know about it. Goodness, can't you understand that? It was necessary that he should not know what a dangerous condition he was in. It was to me that the doctors came and said that his life was in danger, and that the only way to save him was to go south. Don't you suppose I tried, first of all, to get what I wanted as though it were for myself? I told him how I should love to go abroad, like all the other young wives. I tried tears and entreaties on him. I told him he ought to remember what a condition I was in, be kind and indulgent to me. I even hinted that he might raise a loan. That nearly made him angry, Christine. He said I was thoughtless, and that it was his duty, as my husband, not to indulge me in my whims and caprices, as I believe he called them. Very well then, you must be saved. And that was how I came to find a way out of the difficulties.
And did your husband never get to know from your father that the money had not come from him?
No, Papa died just at that time. I meant to let him in on the secret and beg him never to reveal it. But he was so ill then. Alas, there never was any need to tell him.
And since then, have you never told your secret to your husband?
Goodness, no! How could you possibly think so? A man who has such strong opinions about these things? And besides, how painful and humiliating it would be for him, in all his manly independence, to know that he owed me anything. It would upset our mutual relations altogether. Our lovely happy home would no longer be what it is now.
Do you mean never to tell him about it?
Yes, perhaps one day, many years in the future, when I'm no longer as nice-looking as I am now. But don't laugh at me. I mean, of course, when Torvald is no longer as devoted to me as he is now, when my dancing and dressing up and reciting have palled on him, then it may be a good thing to have something in reserve to... What nonsense I'm speaking. That day will never come. So, Christine, what do you think of my grand secret? Do you still think I'm of no use? I can tell you this whole matter has caused me a tremendous lot of worry. It has been by no means easy for me to meet my engagements punctually. I must tell you there's something in business called payment in installments and quarterly interest, and it is so dreadfully difficult to manage the whole thing. I've had to save up a little here and there where I can. You understand? I haven't been able to take out much from my housekeeping money, for Torvald must have a good table, and I couldn't couldn't let my children go and be shabbily dressed. I felt obliged to use up all he's given me for them, sweet little darlings.
So it has all had to come out of your own necessaries of life, poor Nora.
Of course. After all, I was the one responsible for it. Whenever Torvald has given me money for new dresses and that kind of thing, I have never spent more than half of it. I've always bought the simplest and cheapest things. Thank heaven any clothes look well on me, and so Torvald has never noticed. But it was often quite hard on me, Christine, for you know how delightful it is to be really well dressed.
Quite so.
Well then, I found other ways of procuring money. Last winter I was lucky enough to get a lot of copying to do, so I shut myself up in my room for 3 weeks, just sitting there and writing. Many a time I was desperately tired, but all the same it was a great pleasure, sitting there working and earning money. It was like being a man.
How much have you been able to pay off in that way?
I can't tell you exactly. I must tell you it is difficult to keep track of a business matter of that kind. I can only tell you I've paid off every penny I've managed to scrape together. Many a time I was at my wit's end. And then I would sit here and imagine that a rich old gentleman had fallen in love with me.
What? Who was it?
Oh, be quiet. That he had died, and that when his will was opened, it contained, written in big letters, lovely Mrs. Nora Helmer is to have everything I own bestowed to her at once in cash.
But my dearest Nora, who could the man be?
Goodness, can't you understand? There was no old man at all. It was just something I would sit here and imagine when I couldn't think of any ways of getting money. But it's all the same now. The rich old man can stay wherever he is, as far as I'm concerned. I don't care about him or his will either, for now I'm quite free from care. My goodness, Christine, it's delightful to be free from care. To be able to play and romp with the children. To have the house beautifully just as Torvald likes it. Perhaps we shall have a little trip. And perhaps I can see the sea again. Oh, Christine, it's a good thing to be alive and happy.
There's the bell. Perhaps I'd better go.
Oh, no, don't go. No one will come in here. It's sure to be for Torvald.
Excuse me, ma'am? There's a gentleman to see the master, and as the doctor is with him.
Who is it?
It is I, Mrs. Helmer.
You? What do you want to speak to my husband about?
Bank business, in a way. You see, I have a small post in the bank, and I hear that your husband is to be our chief now.
Then it is about...
Nothing but dry business matters, Mrs. Helmer. Absolutely nothing else.
Be so good as to go round to the study, then.
Nora, who is that man?
A lawyer of the name of Krogstad.
Then it really was he.
Do you know the man?
I used to, many years ago. At one time, he was a solicitor's clerk in our town.
Indeed he was.
He is greatly altered.
He made a very unhappy marriage.
He is a widower now, isn't he?
With several children.
They say he carries on various kinds of business.
Really? Does he? I can't say I know anything about it. But let us not talk of business right now. It is so frightfully tiring.
No, my dear fellow. I won't disturb you. I would rather go into your wife for a little while. I beg your pardon. I'm afraid I'm disturbing you too.
No, not at all. Let me introduce you. Dr. Rank, Mrs. Lind.
Oh, I've often heard Mrs. Lind's name mentioned in this house. I believe I passed you on the stairs when I arrived, Mrs. Lind?
Yes, I go up very slowly. I can't manage stairs well.
Some slight internal weakness?
No, the fact is I have been overworking myself.
Nothing more than that. Then I suppose you've come to town to amuse yourself with our entertainments?
I've come to look for work.
Is that a good cure for overwork?
One must live, Dr. Rank.
Yes, the general opinion seems to be that it is necessary.
Oh, Dr. Rank, look here. You know you want to live.
Certainly. However wretched I may feel, I want to prolong the agony as long as possible. All my patients are like that. So too are those who are mortally diseased. One of them, and a bad case too, is at this very moment with Helmer.
Whom do you mean?
A lawyer by the name of Krogstad, a fellow you wouldn't know at all. He suffers from a diseased moral character, Mrs. Helmer, but even he began talking of its being highly important that he should live.
Really? Did he? What did he want to speak to Torvald about?
I have no idea. I only heard that it was something about the bank.
I didn't know this, what's-his-name, Krogstad, had anything to do with the bank.
Yes, some sort of appointment there. I don't know whether you find in your part of the world also that there are certain people who go zealously snuffing about to smell out moral corruption. And as soon as they have found some, put the person concerned into some lucrative position where they can keep their eye on him. Healthy natures are left out in the cold.
Still, I think the sick are those who most need taking care of.
Yes, there you are. That is the sentiment that is turning society into a sick house. Why do you laugh at that? Have you any notion of what society really is?
What do I care about tiresome society? I'm laughing at something quite different, Dr. Rank. Something extremely amusing. Tell me, are all the people employed at the bank now dependent on Torvald?
Is that what you find so extremely amusing?
That's my affair. It's perfectly glorious to think that Torvald has, so much power over so many people. Dr. Rank, what do you say to a macaron?
What, macarons? I thought they were forbidden here.
Yes, but these are some Christine gave me. What, I? Well, don't be alarmed. You couldn't have known that Torvald had forbidden them. I must tell you, he's afraid they will spoil my teeth, but once in a while. That's so, isn't it? By your leave. And you must have one too, Christine. I shall have one. Just a small one. Or at most two. I am tremendously happy. There is just one thing in this world I should dearly love to do.
Well, what is it?
It's something I should dearly love to say, if only Torvald could hear me.
Well, why can't you say it?
I daren't, it's so shocking.
Well, I should advise you not to say it. Still, with us you might. What is it you would so dearly love to say if only Torvald could hear you?
I should just love to say, well, I'm damned.
Are you mad?
Nora, dear.
Say it. Here he is.
Well, Torvald, have you got rid of him?
Yes, he is just gone.
Let me introduce you. This is Mrs. Lind, who has come to town.
Mrs. Lind. Excuse me, I don't know.
Christine Lind, dear?
Of course. A school friend of my wife's, I presume?
Yes, we have known each other since then.
And just think, she has taken a long journey in order to see you.
What do you mean?
No, really,
Christine is tremendously clever at bookkeeping, and she is so frightfully anxious to work under some clever man so as to perfect herself.
Very sensible, Mrs. Lind.
And when she'd heard you'd been made manager of the bank, the news was telegraphed, you know, she came here as quick as she could. Oh, I'm sure you'll be able to find something for Christine to do, for my sake, won't you?
Well, it is not altogether impossible. I presume you are a widow, Mrs. Lind?
Yes.
And have had some experience of bookkeeping?
Yes, a fair amount.
Ah, well then, it's very possible I may be able to find something for you.
What did I tell you? What did I tell you?
You have just come at a fortunate moment, Mrs. Lind.
How am I to thank you?
There is no need, but today you must excuse me.
Wait a minute. I will come with you.
Don't be long away, Torvald, dear.
About an hour, not more.
Are you going too, Christine?
Yes, I must go and look for a room.
Oh, well then we can walk down the street together.
What a pity it is we are so short of space here. I'm afraid it's impossible for us.
Please don't think of it. Goodbye, Nora, dear, and many thanks.
Goodbye for the present. Of course you'll come back later this evening. And you too, Dr. Rank? What do you say? If you are well enough? Oh, well, you must be. Wrap yourself up well. Oh, there they are! Christine, look at them, all big blessings.
Don't let us stand here in the draft.
Come along, Mrs. Lind. The place will only be a roll for a mother now.
Bye! Bye now! Oh, how fresh and well you look. Such red cheeks like apples and roses. We were cold. Have you had good fun? Yes.
We were sledding in the... I took her, and I took her, and I took them. Yeah, and we went on the whole.
You took Alice and the twins along.
Yes.
All at once.
Yes.
That was good. You are a clever girl, Clara. Oh, let me take them for little Anne, my sweet little baby doll. Yes, Mother will dance with Alice too. Oh. Let me take off the things too, Anne. Please let me do it. It is such fun. And now you look half frozen. There should be some hot coffee for you on the stove. Bye.
We have to show you
so much.
The dog, really big dog.
It chased you. Yes. But it didn't bite you. No, of course it didn't. Dogs don't bite nice little dolly children, do they now? No. Oh, you mustn't look at the parcels, dear.
Oh, why? What
are they? I dare say you would like to know.
No.
You mustn't. It's something nasty. How about we play a bit of a game? Okay. Yes. What shall we play at? Hide and seek! Very well, we shall play hide and seek. Alice, you shall hide first, and...
No, you have to hide first, Mom.
Must I?
Yes!
Very well, I shall hide first.
Okay. Let's do it. Come here. Wait.
1, 2, 3. Such great fun. Shall we have it another one?
Yes.
Who shall hide next?
You!
I can't hide again.
Yes, you can.
Excuse me, Mrs. Helmer?
What is it? What do you want?
Excuse me. The outer door was ajar. I suppose somebody forgot to shut it.
My husband is out, Mr. Krogstad.
I know that.
Why are you here, then?
A word with you.
With me? Go into the nurse.
What if he hurts you?
Oh, no, the strange man won't hurt Mother. When he is gone, we can have another game. You want to speak to me?
Yes, I do.
Today, it is not yet the first of the month.
Indeed. It is Christmas Eve. And it will depend on yourself which sort of a Christmas you'll spend.
What do you mean? Today it is absolutely...
This is something different. We'll get to that later. I presume you can give me a moment?
Yes, I can. Although I would
Good.
prefer...
I was in Austin's restaurant when I saw your husband going down the street.
Yes.
With a lady.
What then?
May I be so bold to ask if it was, Miss Lind?
It was.
Just arrived in town?
Yes, just today.
She's a great friend of yours, isn't she?
She is, but I don't see how...
I knew her too. Once upon a time.
I am aware of that.
Are you? So you know all about it then? So, well, I can ask, without beating about the bush, is Miss Lind to have an appointment in the bank?
What right have you to question me, Mr. Krogstad? You, one of my husband's subordinates. But since you ask, you shall know. Yes, Mrs. Lind is to have an appointment in the bank, and it was I who pleaded her cause, let me tell you that.
I was right in what I'd thought then.
Sometimes one has a tiny little bit of influence. Because one is a woman, it does not necessarily follow that. But when anyone is in a subordinate position, Mr. Krogstad, they should be very careful not to offend anyone who...
Who has influence?
Exactly.
Mrs. Helmer, you will be so good as to use your influence on my behalf.
What? What do you mean?
You will be so kind to see that I am allowed to keep my subordinate position in the bank.
What do you mean by that? Who proposes to take your post away from you?
Oh, there's no necessity to keep up the pretense of ignorance. I can quite understand that your friend isn't very anxious for the chance of rubbing shoulders with me. And I can quite understand, too, whom I have to thank for being turned off.
But I assure you...
Very likely. But to come to the point, the time has come from which I must advise you to use your influence to prevent that.
But Mr. Krogstad, I have no influence.
Haven't you? I thought you said just now that...
Well, naturally, I did not mean you to put that construction on it. What should make you think I have any influence of that kind with my husband?
I've known your husband since our student days. I don't assume he is any more unassailable than other husbands.
If you speak slightingly of my husband, I shall turn you out of the house.
You are bold, Mrs. Helmer.
I'm not afraid of you any longer. In a very short time, I will be free of this whole thing.
Listen to me. If necessary, I am prepared to fight for my small post in the bank as if I was fighting for my life.
So it seems.
It's not only for the sake of the money. There's another reason. I may as well tell you. I dare say you know, like everybody else, that once, many years ago, I was guilty of an indiscretion.
I think I've heard something of the kind.
The matter never came into court, but every way seemed closed off to me after that. So I took to the business that you know of. I had to do something, and honestly, I don't think I've been one of the worst. But I must cut myself free from all of that now. My children are growing, and for their sake, I must regain as much reputation as I can in this town. This post in the bank was the first step up for me. And now, your husband has gone and kicked me back downstairs again into the mud.
But you must believe me, Mr. Krogstad. It is not in my power to help you at all.
Then it is because you haven't the will, but I have the means to compel you.
You don't mean that you will tell my husband that I owe you money?
Suppose I were to tell him.
It would be perfectly infamous of you. To think of his learning my secret, which has been my pride and joy, in such an ugly, clumsy way that he should learn it from you. And it would put me in a horribly disagreeable position.
Only disagreeable?
Well, do it then, and it will be the worse for you. My husband shall see for himself what a blackguard you are, and you certainly won't keep your post then.
I had asked you if it was only a disagreeable scene at home that you were afraid of.
If my husband does get to know of it, of course we will pay off what is left that is owing, and then we will have no more to do with you.
Listen to me, Mrs. Helmer. Either you have a very bad memory, or you know very little of business. I shall be obliged to remind you of a few details. When your husband was ill, you came to me to borrow £250.
I didn't know anyone else to go to.
I promised to get you that amount.
Yes, which you did.
I promised to get you that amount on certain conditions. You see, you were so taken up with your husband's illness, and you were so anxious to get the money for your journey, that you seem to have paid no attention to the conditions of our bargain. Therefore, it should not be amiss if I am to remind you of them. Now, I promise to get you the money on the security of a bond which I drew up.
Yes, which I signed.
Good. And under your signature, there were a few lines constituting your father as surety for the money. These lines your father should have signed.
Should have. He did sign them.
I left the date blank. That is to say, your father should have himself insert the date on which he had signed the paper. Do you remember that?
I think I remember.
And then I gave you the paper to send by post to your father. Do you remember that?
Yes.
And naturally, you did so, because 5 or 6 days afterwards, you returned to me with the bond with your father's signature. And then I gave you the money.
Well, haven't I been paying it off regularly?
Fairly so, yes, but to come to the point, that must have been a very trying time for you, Mrs. Helmer.
It was indeed.
Your father was very ill, wasn't he?
He was very near his end.
And died soon afterwards?
Yes.
Tell me, Mrs. Helmer, can you by any chance remember what day your father died, on what day of the month, I mean?
Papa died on the 29th of September.
That is correct. I have ascertained it for myself. But, as that is so, there is a discrepancy which I cannot account for.
What discrepancy? I don't have...
The discrepancy consists, Mrs. Helmer, in the fact that your father signed this bond 3 days after his death.
What do you mean? I don't understand.
Your father died on the 29th of September. But look here. Your father has clearly dated his signature the 2nd of October. It's a discrepancy, isn't it? Can you explain it to me? It is a remarkable thing, too, that the words 2nd of October are not written in your father's handwriting, but in one that I think I recognize. But it can all be explained, of course. Your father may have forgotten to date his signature, and somebody else may have dated it haphazard before they knew of his death. There's no harm in that, right? It all depends on the signature of the name. That is genuine, I suppose, Mrs. Helmer. It was your father that signed his name here?
No, it was not. It was I who wrote Papa's name.
Are you aware that it is a dangerous confession?
In what way? You shall have your money soon.
Let me ask you a question. Why did you not send the paper to your father?
It was impossible. If I should have sent him the paper, I should have had to tell him what it was for. And when he was so ill himself, I couldn't tell him my husband's life was in danger. It was impossible.
It would have been better for you if you had just given up your trip abroad.
No, that wouldn't have been possible. That trip was to save my husband's life. I couldn't just give that up.
But did it never occur to you were committing a fraud on me?
I didn't consider that at all. I couldn't bear you because you put so many heartless difficulties in my way, even though you knew what a dangerous condition my husband was in.
Mrs. Helmer, you evidently do not realize what it is that you have done. But let me tell you that my one false step, which costed me all of my reputation, have been no greater nor no worse than what it is that you have done.
You asked me to believe that you were brave enough to run a risk to save your wife's life?
The law cares nothing about motives.
Then it must be a very foolish law.
Foolish or not, It is a law by which you will be judged if I'm to produce this paper in court.
I don't believe it. Is a daughter not to be allowed to spare her dying father anxiety and care? Is a wife not to be allowed to save her husband's life? I may not know much about the law, Mr. Krogstad, but I'm sure there must be laws permitting such things as that. Have you no knowledge of such laws? You who are a lawyer? You must be a very poor lawyer, Mr. Krogstad.
Maybe, but matters of business, such business which you and I have had together, do you really think I don't understand that? Very well. Do as you please, but let me tell you, if I'm to lose my position for a second time, you will lose yours with me.
Nonsense. Trying to frighten me like that. I am not so silly as you may think. And yet, no, it is impossible. I did it for love's sake.
Mother, the strange man has left through the gate.
Yes, dears, but don't tell anyone about the strange man. Do you hear? Not even Papa.
Will you come play with us again?
No, not now.
Oh, but Mother, you promised us.
Yes, but I can't right now. Run away in, my dears. I have such a lot to do. Run away in. No, it is quite impossible. Helen, could you bring in the Christmas tree?
Where shall I put it, ma'am?
Over there, next to the window.
Shall I get you anything else?
No, thank you. I have all I want. Perhaps we shall put a candle here and some flowers. Horrible man! Of course nothing's wrong. This tree shall look splendid. I shall do everything I can think of to please you, Torvald. Sing for you, dance for you. Oh, are you back already?
Yes. Has anyone been here?
Here? No.
That is strange. I saw Krogstad going out of the gate.
Did you? Oh, right. I forgot. Krogstad was here for just a moment.
Nora, I can tell from your manner that he has been here begging you to say a good word for him.
Yes.
And you were to appear to have done it of your own accord and conceal from me the fact of his having been here. Didn't he beg that of you too?
Yes, but Torvald,
Nora, and you would be a party to that sort of thing. To have any talk with a man like that and make him any sort of promise? To tell me a lie in the bargain?
Lie?
Didn't you tell me no one had been here? My little songbird must never do that. Songbird must have a clean beak to chirp with, no false notes. That's so, isn't it? Yes, I'm sure it is. We'll say no more about it. How warm and snug it is in here.
Torvald,
Yes?
I'm looking forward tremendously to the fancy dress ball tomorrow, the day after tomorrow, at the Stensbergs.
And I'm tremendously curious to see what you were going to surprise me with.
It was very silly of me to want to do that.
What? Why is that?
I can't seem to hit upon anything that will do. Everything I think of seems so silly and insignificant.
Does my little Nora acknowledge that at last?
Are you very busy, Torvald?
Well,
What are all those papers?
bank business.
Already?
Yes, I've got authority from the retiring manager to make the necessary changes in staff and rearrangement of the work, and I must make use of the Christmas week so as to have everything in order for the new year.
Oh, then that was why this poor Krogstad... If you hadn't been so tremendously busy, I should have liked to ask you a very big favor.
What is that? Tell me.
There is no one has such good taste as you, and I do so want to look nice for the fancy dress ball. Torvald, won't you take me in hand and help me decide what I shall go as and what I shall wear?
Aha! So my obstinate little woman is obliged at last to get someone to come to her rescue.
Yes, Torvald, I can't get on a bit without your help.
Very well, I shall think it over. We shall manage it upon something.
It is nice of you. How pretty the ornaments look. Tell me, Torvald, was it something very bad that this Krogstad was guilty of?
He forged someone's name. Have you any idea what that means?
Isn't it possible he was driven to do it out of necessity?
Yes, or as in many cases by imprudence. I'm not so heartless as to condemn a man altogether because of a single false step of that kind.
No, you wouldn't, would you, Torvald?
Many a man has been able to retrieve his character if he has openly confessed his fault and taken his punishment.
Punishment?
But Krogstad did nothing of the sort. He got out of it by a cunning trick, and that is why I say he has gone under altogether. My little Nora must promise me not to plead his cause on it. Come, give me your hand. What is this? Give me your hand. There, now that's settled. I can assure you, it literally makes me feel physically ill when I'm in the company of such people.
How hot it is in here, and I have such a lot to do.
Yes, and I must try and read through some of these before dinner. And I must think over your costume, too. And it is just possible I may have something ready in gold paper to hang up on the tree. My delightful little singing bird.
Physically ill? No. It's quite impossible.
The little ones are begging so hard to be allowed to come into Mama.
No, don't let them come into me. You stay with the man.
Very well, ma'am.
What if I infect my little children? Oh, no, it can't be true. It cannot possibly be true. Someone is coming now? Of course, it's no one. No one will come here today, Christmas Day, or tomorrow either. But perhaps... No, there's nothing in the letterbox. It's quite empty. Of course he can't be in earnest about it. He knows I have 3 little children.
At last I have found the box with the fancy dress.
Thank you. Put it on the table.
But it is very much in want of mending.
I should like to tear it up into 100,000 pieces.
What an idea! It can easily be put in order, just a little patience.
Yes, I will go and get Mrs. Lynde to help me with it.
What? Out again? In this horrible weather? You will catch a cold and make yourself ill.
Well, worse than that might happen. How are the children?
The poor little souls are playing with their Christmas presents, but...
Do they ask much for me?
You see, they're very accustomed to have their mama with them.
Yes, Anne, but I might not be able to be so much with them as I was before.
Oh well, young children get easily accustomed to anything.
Do you believe that? Do you think they would forget their mother if she went away altogether?
Good heavens, went away altogether?
Anne, I would like you to tell me something that I've often worried about. How could you have the heart to put your child out among strangers?
I was obliged to if I wanted to be little Nora's nurse.
Yes, but how could you be willing to do it?
What, when I was going to get such a good place by it? A poor girl who has got into trouble should be glad to. Besides, that wicked man didn't do a single thing for me.
But I suppose your daughter has quite forgotten you.
No, indeed she hasn't. She wrote to me when she was married and when she was confirmed.
Dear old Anne, you were a good mother to me when I was little.
Little Nora, poor dear, had no other mother but me.
I'm quite sure that if my children had no other mother, then you... Nonsense I'm speaking. You must go into them now. Now I must... You will see tomorrow how charming I shall look.
I am sure no one at the ball will be so charming as you, ma'am.
If only I dared go out. If only I could be sure nothing would happen here in the meantime. Stuff and nonsense. Of course nothing is wrong. Only I mustn't think about it. Out of my thoughts. Out of my thoughts. It is you, Christine. There's no one out there with you, is there? Of course not. How nice of you to come.
I heard you're up asking for me.
Yes, as I was passing by. In fact, it is something you might help me with. Sit down. There is to be a fancy dress ball tomorrow evening at the Stensbergs, who live above us. And Torvald wants me to go as a Neapolitan fisher girl and dance a tarantella that I learned at Capri.
Oh, I see. You're going to keep up the character.
Yes, Torvald wants me to. But look, here's the dress. He had it made for me there, but now it is all so torn up, and I haven't any idea how
We
to...
will easily put that right. It is only some of the trimming come sewn here and there. Needle and thread?
Of course.
Now then, that's all we want.
It is nice of you.
So you're going to be dressed up tomorrow, Nora? I will tell you what. I shall come in for a moment and see you in your fine feathers. Oh, but I've completely forgotten to thank you for a delightful evening yesterday.
Well, I don't think yesterday was as nice as it usually is. You ought to have come to town a little bit earlier, Christine. Certainly Torvald does understand how to keep a house dainty and attractive.
And so do you, it seems to me. You're not your father's daughter for nothing. But tell me, is Dr. Rank always as depressed as he was yesterday?
No, yesterday it was quite apparent. I must tell you, he suffers from a very dangerous disease. He has consumption of the spine, the poor creature. His father was a terrible man who committed all kinds of excesses, and that was why his son was sickly from childhood. Do you understand?
How do you know anything about such things?
When you have 4 children, sometimes you get visits from married women who know a thing or two about medical matters, and they talk to one another about such things.
Does Dr. Rank come here every day?
Yes, he is Torvald's greatest friend, and quite a great friend of mine as well. He's just like one of the family.
But tell me this, is he perfectly sincere? I mean, isn't he the kind of man that is very anxious to make himself agreeable?
Not in the least. What makes you say that?
When you introduced him to me yesterday, he declared he often heard my name mentioned in this house. But afterwards, I noticed your husband hadn't the slightest idea who I was. So how could Dr. Rank?
Well, yes, you are quite right, Christine. Torvald is so absurdly fond of me that he wants me all to himself, as he has said. He used to seem almost jealous when I would mention the dear folk at home, so naturally I gave up doing so. But I often talk about these things with Dr. Rank, because he likes hearing about them.
Listen to me. You are still very like a child in many things, and I'm older than you in many ways, and have a little more experience. Let me tell you this. You ought to make an end of it with Dr. Rank.
What ought I to make an end of?
Of 2 things, I think. Yesterday you talked some nonsense of a rich admirer who is to leave you money.
A rich admirer who doesn't exist, unfortunately. But what then?
Is Dr. Rank a man of means?
Yes.
And has no one to provide for?
No, no one,
and
but...
comes here every day.
Yes, I told you so.
But how can this well-bred man be so tactless?
I don't understand you at all.
Don't prevaricate, Nora. Do you suppose I don't guess who lent you the 250 pounds?
My goodness, how could you think that? A friend of ours who comes here every day? Do you realize what a horribly painful position that would be?
Then it really isn't he?
Of course not. Never for a second would I consider to ask Dr. Rank. Besides, he had no money to lend then. He came into his money afterwards.
Well, I think that was very lucky of you, Nora dear.
No, I never would have thought for a second to ask Dr. Rank. Although I'm quite sure that if I had asked him...
But of course you won't.
Of course not. I have no reason to think it should possibly be necessary. But I'm quite sure that if I told him, he would...
Behind your husband's back?
I must make an end of it with the other one. That will be behind his back as well.
That is what I told you yesterday, but you...
Well, I think a man can put a thing like that straight much easier than a woman.
One's husband, yes.
Nonsense. When you pay off a debt, you get your bond back, don't you?
Yes, as a matter of course.
And can tear it up into 100,000 pieces, the nasty, dirty paper.
Nora, you're concealing something from me.
Do I look as if I were?
Something has happened to you since yesterday morning. Nora, what is it?
Oh, Christine. Hush, there's Torvald come home. Would you mind going into the children for the present? Torvald can't bear to see the sight of dressmaking going on. Let Anne help you.
Certainly. But I'm not going away from here until we have had it out with one another.
I have wanted for you so much, Torvald, dear.
Was that the dressmaker?
No, it was Mrs. Lind. She has come to help me with my dress a bit. You will
Wasn't-
see tomorrow I will look quite smart.
Wasn't that a happy thought of mine now?
Splendid! But isn't it also nice of me to do as you wish?
Nice. To do as your husband wishes. Well, you little rogue, I am sure you did not mean that. But I will not disturb you. You will want to be trying on your dress, I expect.
I suppose you are going to work.
Yes. Look here, I've just been into the bank.
Torvald,
Yes?
if your little squirrel were to ask you for something very, very prettily,
What then?
would you do it?
I should like to hear what it is first.
Your squirrel would run about and do all her tricks if you would be nice and do as she asks.
Speak plainly.
Your little skylark would chirp about in every room, her song rising and falling.
My little skylark does that anyhow.
I would play the fairy and dance in the moonlight for you, Torvald.
My little Nora. Are you still talking about that question you brought up to me this morning?
Yes, Torvald, I beg you so earnestly.
Nora, have you really the courage to open up that question again?
Yes, you must do as I ask. You must let Krogstad keep his position at the bank.
Nora, it is his post I have arranged Mrs. Lynn shall have.
Yes, and you have been so awfully kind about that. But you might just as well dismiss some other clerk besides Krogstad.
This is simply incredible obstinacy. Because you chose to make him a thoughtless promise that you would speak for him. I am expected to...
That isn't the reason, Torvald. It is for your sake. This fellow writes in the most scurrilous newspapers. You have told me so yourself. He can do us an unspeakable amount of harm. I'm frightened to death of him.
I understand. It is recollections of the past that scare you.
What do you mean?
Naturally, you are thinking of your father.
Yes, of course. Just recall to your mind what these malicious creatures wrote in the papers about Papa, and how horribly they slandered him. I believe they would have procured his dismissal if the apartment had not sent you in to inquire about it, and if you had not been so kindly disposed and helpful to him.
My dear Nora, there is an important difference between me and your father. Your father's position as a public official was not above suspicion. Mine is, and I hope it will continue to be so as long as I hold my office.
But you never know what mischief these men may contrive. We ought to be so snug and so well off in our home, without any cares. You and I and the children, Torvald. That is why I beg of you so earnestly.
And it is just by interceding for him that you make it impossible for me to keep him. It is already known at the bank that I mean to dismiss Krogstad. Is it to get about now that the new manager changed his mind at his wife's bidding?
And what if it did?
Of course! If only this obstinate woman could have her way. Do you suppose I'm going to make myself ridiculous before my whole staff, to have people think that I'm a man to be swayed by all sorts of outside influence? I should feel the consequences of that very soon, I can tell you. And besides, there is one thing that makes having Krogstad in the bank while I'm manager there quite impossible.
Whatever is that?
His moral failings I might perhaps have overlooked, if necessary.
Yes, you could, couldn't you, Torvald?
And I hear he is a good worker too. But I knew him when we were boys. It was one of those rash friendships that so often prove an incubus in afterlife. I may as well tell you plainly, we were once on very intimate terms with one another. But this tactless fellow lays no restraint on himself when other people are present. On the contrary, he thinks it gives him the right to adopt a familiar tone with me. In every second it is, I say, Elmer, old fellow, and that sort of thing. I assure you, it is extremely painful for me. He would make my position in the bank intolerable.
Torvald, I don't believe you mean that.
Don't you? Why not?
Because it is such a narrow-minded way of looking at things.
Narrow-minded? Do you think I'm narrow-minded?
Oh no, Torvald, exactly the opposite. And it is just for that reason
It is the same thing. You say I'm narrow-minded, so I must be so too. Narrow-minded. Very well, I will put an end to all of this. Helen?
What are you going to do?
Settle it. Look here. Take this letter and go downstairs with it at once. Find a messenger and tell him to deliver it and be quick. The address is on it, and here's the money.
Very well, sir.
Now then, little Miss Obstinate.
Torvald, what was that letter?
Krogstad's dismissal.
Oh, call her back. There is still time. It is for your sake, for my sake, the children's sake. Please call her back. You don't know what that letter can bring upon us.
It's too late.
Yes, it is too late.
My dear Nora, I can forgive your anxiety. Although really, it is an insult to me. It is indeed. Isn't it an insult to think that I should be afraid of a starving quill driver's vengeance? But I forgive you, nevertheless, because it is such eloquent witness to your great love for me. Come what will, you can be sure that I shall have both courage and strength if they be needed. You will see that I am man enough to take everything upon myself.
What do you mean by that?
Everything, I say.
You will never have to do that.
Very well. Well, we will share it, Nora, as man and wife should. Are you content now? There, not these frightened dove eyes. The whole thing is only the wildest fancy. Now you must go and play through the tarantella and practice the tambourine. I shall go into the inner office and shut the door, and I shall hear nothing. You can make as much noise as you please. Oh, and when Ray comes, tell him where he'll find me.
He is capable of doing it. He will do it. He will do it in spite of everything. Oh, no, anything rather than that. For some help, for some way out of it. Dr. Rank. Anything rather than that. Hello, Dr. Rank. I knew your ring, but you mustn't go into Torvald right now. I believe he's busy with something.
And you?
Oh, you know very well I always have time for you.
Thank you. I shall make use of as much of it as I can.
What do you mean by that? As much of it as you can.
Well, does that alarm you?
It was such a strange way of putting things. Is anything likely to happen?
Nothing but what I've long been prepared for. But I certainly didn't expect it to happen so soon.
What have you found out? Dr. Rank, you must tell me.
It is all up with me, and it can't be helped.
Is it about yourself?
Who else? It is no use lying to oneself. I am the most wretched of all my patients, Mrs. Helmer. Lately, I've been taking stock of my internal economy. Bankrupt! Probably within a month, I shall lie rotting in the churchyard.
What an ugly thing to say.
The thing itself is cursedly ugly, and the worst of it is that there is so much more that is ugly that I shall have to face before that. I shall make one more examination of myself. When I've done that, I shall know pretty certainly when it will be that the horrors of disillusion have begun. There's something I want to tell you. Helmer's refined nature gives him an unconquerable disgust at everything that is ugly. I won't have him in my sick room.
Oh, but Dr. Ray...
I won't have him. Not on any account. I bar my door to him. As soon as I'm quite certain that the worst has come, I shall send you my card with a black cross on it. And it is then that you will know that the loathsome end has begun.
You are quite absurd today. And I so wanted for you to be in a really good humor.
With death stalking beside me, to have to pay this penalty for another man's sin, is there any justice in that? And in every single family, some such inexorable retribution is being
rubbish.
exacted.
Do talk of something cheerful.
Oh, it's a mere laughing matter, the whole thing. My poor innocent spine has to suffer for my father's youthful amusements.
I suppose you mean that he was too partial to asparagus and pâte de foie gras?
Yes. And to truffles.
Truffles, yes, and oysters too, I suppose?
Oysters. Of course, that goes without saying.
Heaps of port and champagne. It is sad that all these nice things should take their revenge on our bones.
Especially that they should revenge themselves on the unlucky bones of those who have never had the satisfaction of enjoying them.
Yes, that is the saddest part of it all. Why do you smile?
No, it was you that laughed.
No, it was you that smiled, Dr. Rank.
You are a greater rascal than I thought.
I'm in a silly mood today.
So it seems.
Oh, dear Dr. Rank, death mustn't take you away from Torvald and me.
It is a loss you would easily recover from. Those who are gone are soon forgotten.
Do you believe that?
People form new ties and then...
Who will form new ties?
Both you and Helmer when I am gone. What did that Mrs. Lind want here last night?
Oh, I don't suppose you mean you're jealous of poor Christine, are you?
Yes, I am. She is to be my successor in this house. When I am gone, that woman will...
Oh, shh, don't talk so loud. She's in that room back there.
Today again. There, you see.
She has only come to sew my new dress for me. My goodness, how unreasonable you are. Be nice now, Dr. Rank. Tomorrow you shall see how beautifully I shall dance. And you can imagine I'm doing it all for you. And for Torvald too, of course. But look here. Let me show you something.
What is it?
Just look at those.
Silk stockings.
Flesh-colored. Aren't they lovely? It's so dark in here now, but tomorrow you must only look at the feet. And I suppose you may have leave to look at the legs too. Why are you looking so critical? Don't you think they will fit me?
I have no means of forming an opinion about that.
For shame! That is to punish you.
And what other nice things am I to be allowed to see?
Not a single thing more for being so naughty.
When I'm sitting here, talking to you as intimately as this, I cannot imagine for a moment what would have become of me if I had never come into this house.
I believe you do feel thoroughly at home with us.
And to be obliged to leave it all.
Nonsense, you are not going to leave it all.
And to not be able to leave behind the slightest trace of one's gratitude. Scarcely even a fleeting regret. Nothing but an empty place which the first comer can fill as well as any other.
And if I asked you now for
For what?
big proof of your friendship,
Yes, yes.
I mean a tremendously big favor.
Would you really make me so happy for once?
But you don't know what it is yet.
No. But tell me.
I really can't, Dr. Rank. It's something out of all reason. It means advice and help and a favor.
The bigger a thing it is, the better. I can't conceive what it is you mean. Do tell me. Haven't I your confidence?
More than anyone else. I know you are my truest and best friend. So I will tell you what it is. Well, Dr. Rank, it is something you must help me to prevent. You know how devotedly, how inexpressibly deeply Torvald loves me. Never for a moment would he hesitate to give his life for me. But I'm so afraid that...
Nora, do you think he's the only one?
The only one?
The only one that would gladly give his life for your sake?
Is that it?
I was determined that you should know it before I went away. And there will never be a better opportunity than this. Now you know it, Nora. And now you know, too, that you can trust me as you would trust no one else.
Let me pass.
Nora!
Helen, could you bring in a lamp? Dear Dr. Rank, that was quite horrid of you.
To have loved you as much as anyone else does. Was that horrid?
No, but to go and tell me so? There really was no need.
What do you mean? Did you know? Nora. Mrs. Helmer. Tell me, had you any idea of this?
How do I know whether I had or whether I hadn't? I really can't tell you. To think you could be so clumsy, Dr. Rank. And we were getting along so nicely.
Well, at all events, you now know that you can command me, body and soul. So won't you speak out?
After what just happened?
I beg you to let me know what it is.
I can't tell you anything now.
Yes, yes. You mustn't punish me in that way. Let me have permission to do for you whatever it is a man may do.
You can do nothing for me now. Besides, I don't really need your help at all. The whole thing is merely fancy on my part. Yes, of course it is. You are a nice sort of man, Dr. Rank. Don't you feel ashamed of yourself now that the lamp has come?
Not a bit. But perhaps I'd better go. Forever?
No, indeed you shall not. Of course you must come here just as before. You know very well Torvald can't do without you.
Yes. But you?
Oh, I'm always tremendously pleased when you come.
It is just that puts me on the wrong track. I have often thought that you would almost as soon be in my company as in Helmer's.
Yes, well, I suppose there are some people that one loves best, and others whom one would almost always rather keep as companions.
Yes, there is something in that.
When I was at home, of course I loved Papa best, but I did often think it quite fun to steal down to the maid's room, for they never moralized with one another and talked to each other about such entertaining things.
I see. It is their place I've taken.
Oh, dear Dr. Rank, I didn't mean that at all. But surely you can understand that being with Torvald is a bit like being with Papa.
If you please, ma'am.
Oh.
Is there anything wrong?
No, it is nothing. It is my new dress.
What? Mrs. Lind has your dress back there.
Oh, yes, that one, but this is another one. I ordered it. Torvald mustn't know anything about it.
Oh, so then that was the great secret.
Yes, of course. Go into him now. He should be sitting in the inner room. Keep him as long as...
Make your mind easy. I won't let him escape.
And he is standing waiting in the kitchen?
Yes, he came up the back stairs.
But didn't you tell him no one was in?
Yes, but it was no good.
He won't go away.
No. He says he won't until he has seen you, ma'am.
Well, then let him come in. But quietly, Helen. No one must know about this. It is a surprise for my husband.
Yes, ma'am. I quite understand.
This dreadful thing is going to happen. It will happen in spite of me. No, it can't happen. It shan't happen. Speak low. My husband is at home.
No matter about that.
Why are you here?
An explanation of something.
Make haste, then.
You know, I suppose, that I have gotten my dismissal now.
Yes, Mr. Krogstad, I fought as hard as I could on your side, but it was no use.
Does your husband love you so little, then? He knows what I can expose you to, yet still he ventured...
How do you suppose he knows anything of the kind?
I didn't suppose so at all. It wouldn't be like our dearest Torvald Helmer to show so much courage.
Mr. Krogstad, a little respect to my husband, please.
Certainly. All the respect he deserves. But since you have kept the matter so carefully to yourself, I make bold to suppose you have a little clearer idea than you did yesterday of what it is that you have actually done.
More than you could ever teach me.
Yes, such a bad lawyer as I am.
What are you here for?
Only to see how you were, Mrs. Helmer. A mere cashier, a quill driver. A man like me. Even he has a little of what is called feeling, you know.
Then show it. Think of my little children.
Have you and your husband thought of mine? But never mind about that. I only wanted to tell you that you need not take this matter too seriously. In the first place, there will be no accusation made on my part.
Yes, I made sure of that.
This whole thing can be arranged amicably. There's no reason why anybody else should get to know about it. It will remain a secret between just us three.
My husband must never get to know anything about it.
How will you prevent it then? Am I to understand that you can pay off the balance that is owing?
No, not just at present.
Or maybe you have some sort of expedient for raising the money soon.
No expedient I mean to make use of.
Well, in any case, it wouldn't matter at all. If you stood there with ever so much money in your hand, I would never part ways with your bond.
What purpose do you mean to put it to?
Only to preserve it. Keep it in my possession. Nobody who is not involved in the matter shall have anything to know about it. So if the thought of it had driven you to any desperate resolution...
It has?
Have you had it in your mind to run away from your home?
I had?
Or even something worse?
How do you know that?
Give up the idea.
How could you know I have thought of that?
Most of us do at first. I had to, but I hadn't the courage.
No more had I.
No, that's it, isn't it? You hadn't the courage either.
No, I haven't. I haven't.
Besides, it would have been a great piece of folly anyways. Once the first storm at home is over, I have a letter for your husband in my pocket.
Telling him everything?
In as lenient as a manner as I possibly could.
Tear it up! I will find some way of getting money.
Excuse me, Mrs. Hummer. I believe I told you just now that...
I'm not speaking of what I owe you. Tell me what sum you are asking my husband for, and I will get it.
I'm not asking your husband for a penny.
What are you asking him for, then?
I will tell you. I want to rehabilitate myself, Mrs. Helmer. I want to get on, and in that, your husband must help me. For the last year and a half, I have been struggling in most restricted circumstances. I have not had a hand in anything dishonorable. I was content to work my way up step by step. Yet now I'm turned out. And I will not be content with merely being taken into favor again. I want to get on, I tell you. I want to get back into the bank. And in that, your husband must make that place for me.
That he will never do.
Oh, he will. I know him. He dare not protest. Once I am in there again with him, then you will see. Within a year, I shall be the manager's right-hand man. And soon, it shall be Nils Krogstad and not Torvald Helmer who manages the bank.
That's a thing you will never see.
Do you mean that
I haven't courage enough for it now.
you can't frighten me, a fine, spoiled lady like you?
You will see. You will see.
Under the ice, perhaps. Down into the cold, black water. And to float up in the spring again, all horrible and unrecognizable. All of your hair fallen out.
You can't frighten me.
Nor you me. People don't do such things, Mrs. Helmer. Besides, what use should it be? I should have your husband completely in my power all the same.
Even after I've gone?
Have you forgotten that it is I who have the keeping of your reputation? I've warned you. Don't do anything foolish. And do remember, it was your husband himself who has forced me into such ways as this. I will never forgive him for that. Goodbye, Mrs. Helmer.
He's going now. He's not putting the letter in the box. He's not going downstairs. Is he hesitating? Can he? The letter box. There it lies. Torvald, there is no hope for us now.
There, I can't see anything more to mend now. Would you like to try it on?
Christine, come over here.
What is the matter with you? You look so agitated.
Look out there. Do you see the letter box? There's a letter in there. You can see it through the glass.
Yes, I see it.
That letter is from Krogstad.
Hora, it was Krogstad who lent you the money.
Yes, and now Torvald will get to know all about it.
Believe me, Nora, that is the best thing for both of you.
You don't know all. I forged a name.
Good heavens.
Christine, I only want to say this to you. You must be my witness.
Your witness? What do you mean? What am I to?
If I should go out of my mind, and it very well might happen,
Hora!
or if something else should happen, something, for instance, that would prevent my being here,
Hora, Nora, you're quite out of your mind.
and if somebody should try and come forward and take all the responsibility, all the blame, you understand?
Yes, but how can you suppose?
Then you must be my witness, Christine, that it is not true. I'm not out of my mind at all. I'm in my right senses, and I tell you that no one else has known anything about it. It was I and I alone who was responsible for the whole thing. Please remember that.
I will indeed, but I don't understand all this.
Could you understand? A wonderful thing is going to happen.
A wonderful thing?
Yes, but it is so horrible, Christine. It mustn't happen. Not for all the world.
I'll go at once and see Krogstad.
Oh, no, he will do some harm.
There was a time when he would gladly do anything for my sake.
He?
Where does he live?
Why to? Oh, yes. Here is his card.
Nora!
What is it? What do you want?
Don't be alarmed, you are not coming in. You have locked the door. Are you trying on your dress?
Yes, that is just it. I look so nice, Torvald.
I see he lives at the corner here.
Yes, but it is no use. The letter is lying out there in the box.
And your husband keeps the key?
Yes, always.
Krogstad must ask for his letter back unread. He must find some pretense.
But it is just at this time that Torvald generally
You
goes
must slay him. Go into him in the meantime. I'll come back as soon as I can.
Come in.
Well, may I venture at last to come into my own room again? Come along, Rank, and you'll now see... Well, what is this?
What is what, dear?
Rank led me to expect a splendid transformation.
I understood so, but evidently I was mistaken.
Yes, of course. Nobody is to have the chance of admiring me in my dress until tomorrow evening.
My dear Nora, you look so worn out. Have you been practicing too much?
No, I have not practiced at all.
But you'll want to.
Yes, I will, but I can't get along a bit without your help. I've completely forgotten the entire thing.
Oh, we'll soon work it up again.
Yes, you must practice with me. You must give yourself up to me entirely this evening. I'm so nervous about it, all the people. You must help me, and you mustn't even think of anything business-wise. You mustn't even hold a pen in your hand.
I promise. This evening I will be wholly and absolutely at your service, you helpless little mortal. Ah, but first I will just...
What are you going to do there?
Only check to see if any letters...
Oh, no, don't do that, Torvald.
Why not?
There's nothing in the letterbox. Please don't check it.
Well, let me look.
I can't dance tomorrow if I don't practice with you.
Are you really so afraid of it, dear?
Yes, so dreadfully afraid of it. Come and sit down here. There's some time before we go to dinner for me to practice. Sit down and play, and criticize me as you play.
With great pleasure if you wish me to.
Now play for me. I'm going to dance.
Slower, slower.
I can't do it any other way.
Not so violently, Nora.
This is the way.
No, that is not a bit right.
There, you see?
Let me play for her.
Yes, do. I can correct her better then. Slower. Hand a bit faster. Head straight. Tambourine, steady.
Such fun, Christine.
My dear Nora, you are dancing as if your life depended on it. Stop, Rick. This is sheer madness. Stop, I tell you. I could never have believed it. You've forgotten everything I've taught you.
Didn't I tell you so?
You'll want a lot of coaching.
Yes, you see how much I need it? You must coach me up until the last minute, Torvald. You must promise me that. You mustn't open a single letter, not even look into the letterbox.
Oh, are you still afraid of that fellow?
Yes, indeed I am.
Yeah, I can tell from your manner that there is a letter from him lying there.
Maybe. I'm not quite sure. But you mustn't think of anything of that kind. Nothing horrid must come between us until all of this is over.
You mustn't contradict her.
Very well, the child shall have her way. But tomorrow night, after you have danced...
Then you will be free.
Dinner is served, ma'am.
We will have champagne, Helen?
Very good, ma'am.
Hello, are we going to have a banquet?
Yes, champagne banquet. Until the small hours. Oh, and a few macaroons, please, Helen? Lots, just for once.
Come, don't be so wild and nervous. Be my own little skylark, like you used.
Yes, indeed I will. But going now, Torvald, and you too, Dr. Rank. Christine, you must help me fix up my hair.
I suppose there's nothing. She's not expecting anything?
Far from it, my dear fellow. It is simply nothing more than this childish nervousness I was telling you of.
Well,
Gone out of town.
I could tell from your face.
He's coming home tomorrow evening. I wrote a note for him.
You should have let it alone. You must prevent nothing. After all, it is splendid to be waiting for a wonderful thing to happen.
What is it that you're waiting for?
You would understand. Go into them now. I shall come in a moment. 5:00. 7 hours until midnight. And then 24 hours until the next midnight. Then the tarantella will be over. 24 and 7. 31 hours left to live.
Where's my little skylark?
Here she is!
Why, Pat? And the time is nearly up. If only it's not. There he is. Come in. There's no one here.
I found a letter from you at home. What does this mean?
It is absolutely necessary that we should have a talk.
And it is absolutely necessary that it should be here.
It is impossible where I live. There's no private entrance to my rooms. Come in. We're quite alone. The maid is asleep, and the Helmers are at the dance upstairs.
Are the Helmers really at a dance tonight?
Yes, why not?
Certainly. Why not?
Now, Nils, let us have a talk.
Can we two have anything to talk about?
We have a great deal to talk about.
Shouldn't have thought so.
No, you have never properly understood me.
What else was there to understand other than what was obvious to all the world? A heartless woman jilts a man when a more lucrative chance turns up.
Do you believe I'm as absolutely heartless as all that? And do you believe I did it with a light heart?
Didn't you?
Nils, did you really think that?
If it were as you say, then why did you write to me as you did at the time?
I could do nothing else, as I had to break with you. It was my duty also to put an end to all that you felt for me.
So that's it. And all this, all for the sake of money.
You must not forget that I had a helpless mother and 2 little brothers. We couldn't wait for you, Nils. Your prospects seemed hopeless then.
Maybe, but you had no right to throw me over for anybody else's sake.
Indeed, I don't know. Many a time did I ask myself whether I had the right to do it.
When I lost you, it was as if all the solid ground had disappeared from under my feet. Look at me now. I but shipwrecked man clinging to some pit of wreckage.
But help may be near.
It was near, but then you came and stood in my way.
Unintentionally, Nils. It was only today that I learned it was your place I was going to take in the bank.
I believe you if you say so, but now that you know it, are you not going to give it up to me?
No, because that would not benefit you in the least.
Benefit. I would have done it whether or no.
I've learned to act prudently. Life and hard, bitter necessity has taught me that.
And life has taught me not to believe in fine speeches.
Then life has taught you something very reasonable. But these you must believe in.
What do you mean by that?
You said you were like a shipwrecked man clinging to some wreckage.
I had good reason to say so.
Well, I'm like a shipwrecked woman clinging to some wreckage. No one to mourn for. No one to care for.
That was your own choice.
There was no other choice. Then,
Well, what now?
Nils, how would it be if we 2 people could join forces?
Christine,
2 on the same piece of wreckage would stand a better chance than each of their own. What do you suppose brought me to town?
Do you mean that you gave me a thought?
I could not endure life without work. All my life, as long as I can remember, I've worked, and it has been my greatest and only pleasure. But now, I'm quite alone in the world. My life is so dreadfully empty, and I feel so forsaken. There's not the least pleasure in working for oneself. Nils, give me someone and something to work for.
I don't trust that. It is nothing but a woman's overstrained sense of generosity that prompts you to make such an offer of yourself.
Have you ever noticed anything of the sort in me?
Could you really do it? I mean, do you know all about my past life?
Yes.
And do you know what they think of me here?
You seem to me to imply that, with me, you might have been quite another man.
I'm certain of it.
Is it too late now?
Christine, are you saying this deliberately? Yes, I see it in your face. I mean, tell me, have you really the courage?
I want to be a mother to someone, and your children need a mother. We 2 need each other. Nils, I have faith in your real character. I can dare anything together with you.
Oh, thanks, Christine. I shall find a way to clear myself in the eyes of the world. I shall get it. But I forgot.
Hush! Tarantella,
Why?
go!
What is it?
Do you hear them up there? When that is over, we will expect them back.
Yes, I'll go, but... God, of course it is no use. Of course you're not aware what steps I've taken in the matters of the Helmers.
Yes, I know all about that.
And in spite of that, you have the...
I understand very well to what lengths a man like you might be driven by despair.
If only I could undo what I had done.
You cannot! Your letter is lying in the letterbox now.
Are you sure of that?
Quite sure, but...
Is that what it means? That you would save a friend at any cost? Tell me frankly, is that what it means?
Nils, a woman who has once sold herself for another's sake doesn't do it a second time.
I will ask Helmer for my letter back.
No! No, no.
Yes, of course I will. I will wait here until Helmer comes. I will tell him that he must give me my letter back, that he is not to read it, that it only concerns of my dismissal.
No, Nils. You must not recall your letter.
But tell me, was it not for that very reason you asked me to meet you here?
In my first moment of fright, it was. But 24 hours have elapsed since then, and in that time, I've witnessed incredible things in this house. Helmer must know all about it. This unhappy secret must be disclosed. There must be complete understanding between them, which is impossible with all this concealment and falsehood going on.
Very well. If you will take the responsibility. But there's one thing I can do in any case, and I shall do it at once.
You must be quick and go. The dance is over. We're not safe a moment longer.
I will wait for you below.
Yes, do. You must see me back to my door.
I've never had such an amazing piece of good fortune in my life.
What a difference! What a difference! Someone to work for and live for, a home to bring comfort into. That I will do indeed. I wish they would quick and come.
Oh no, don't take me in. I don't want to go so early.
But Nora!
Please, Torvald, only an hour more.
Not a single minute, my sweet Nora. You know that was our agreement. Now come along into the room. You were catching cold standing there.
Good evening.
Christine.
You here so late, Mrs. Lind?
Yes, you must excuse me. I was so anxious to see Nora in her dress.
Have you been standing here waiting for me?
Yes, unfortunately I came too late. You had already gone upstairs, and I thought I couldn't go away again without having seen you.
Well, take a good look at her, Mrs. Lind. I think she is worth looking at. Isn't she charming, Mrs. Lind?
Yes, indeed she is.
Isn't she remarkably pretty? Everyone thought so at the dance. But she is terribly self-willed, the sweet little person. You will hardly believe I almost had to bring her away by force.
Torvald, you will repent not having let me stay, even if it were for only half an hour.
Listen to her, Mrs. Lind. She had danced the tarantella, and it had been a success. As it deserved, although perhaps a trifle too realistic. I mean, that is strictly compatible with the limitations of art. But the chief thing is she had made a success. She had made a tremendous success. Do you suppose I was going to let her stay there after that and spoil the effect? No, indeed. I took my charming little Capri maiden, my capricious little Capri maiden, I should say, on my arm, took one quick turn around the room, a curtsy on either side, and as they say in novels, the beautiful apparition disappeared. An exit ought always to be effective, Mrs. Lind, but that is what I cannot make nor understand. Whew, this room is hot. Hello, it's all dark in here. Oh, of course, excuse me.
Well,
I've had a talk with them.
and?
Nora, you must tell your husband all about it.
I knew it.
You have nothing to be afraid of as far as Krogstad is concerned, but you must tell him.
I won't tell him.
Then the letter will.
Thank you, Christine. Now I know what I must do.
Well, have you admired her, Mrs. Lind?
Yes, and now I will say good night.
What? Already? Oh, is this yours, the knitting?
Oh, yes, thank you. I'd very nearly forgotten it.
So you knit.
Of course.
Do you know, you really ought to embroider.
Really? Why?
Yes, it's far more becoming. Look here. You hold the embroidery thus in your left hand, and use the needle like this, with a long, easy sweep. Do you see?
Yes, perhaps.
But in the case of knitting, it can never be anything but ungraceful. Look here. You hold the needles like this, the needles going up and down, has a sort of Chinese effect. Whew, that was really excellent champagne they gave us.
Well, good night, Nora. And don't be self-willed anymore.
That's right, Mrs. Lind.
Good night, Mr. Helmer.
Good night, good night. I hope you will get home all right. I should very much like to, but you're having any great distance to go. Good night, good night. At last we have got rid of her. She's a frightful bore, that woman.
Aren't you very tired, Torvald?
No, not a bit.
Or sleepy?
Oh, not in the least. On the contrary, I feel extraordinarily lively. And you? You look both tired and sleepy.
Yes, I should like to go to bed at once.
There, you see, it was quite right of me not to let you stay there any longer.
Everything you do is quite right, Torvald.
Now my little Skylark is speaking reasonably. Did you notice what good spirits Rank was in this evening?
Really, was he? I can't say I spoke to him much at all.
And I very little. But it has been such a long while since I've seen him in such good form. Nora, it is delightful to be at home by ourselves again. Be all alone with you, my shy little darling.
Don't look at me like that, Torvald.
Why shouldn't I look at my greatest treasure, at all the beauty that is mine, all my very own?
You mustn't say things like that to me tonight.
You have still got the tarantella in your blood, I see. And it makes you more captivating than ever. Listen, Nora. The guests are beginning to go now. Soon the whole house will be quiet.
Yes, I hope so.
Nora, do you know why when we are out at parties such as this, why I never speak to you, keep so far away from you, and only send a stolen glance your way every now and then? It's because I make believe to myself that we are secretly in love, that you are my secretly promised bride, that no one suspects there is anything between us.
Yes, I know very well your thoughts are always with me.
And when we are leaving, and I am putting the shawl over your beautiful young shoulders, around your pretty neck, I make believe to myself that you're my young bride. We have just come home from the wedding. To be all alone by ourselves for the first time. Be all alone with my shy little darling. All this evening I've longed for nothing but you. The seductive figures of the tarantella set my blood on fire. I could endure it no longer. That is why I brought you down so early.
Go away, Torvald. You must let me go. I won't.
What are you saying? You won't? You won't? Am I not your husband?
Did you hear?
Who is it?
It is I. May I come in for a moment?
Oh, what does he want now? Wait a minute. Colin, that's kind of you not to pass by our door.
I thought I heard your voice and felt as if I should like to look in. Ah, yes, these dear familiar rooms. You are very happy and cozy in here, you two.
Seems to me you looked after yourself quite well upstairs as well.
Excellently. Why shouldn't I? Why shouldn't one enjoy everything that there is in this world? At any rate, as much as one can, and as long as one can. The wine was capital.
Especially the champagne.
So you noticed that too. It is almost incredible how much I have managed to put away.
Torvald drank a great deal of champagne tonight.
Did he?
Yes, and he is always in such good spirits afterwards.
Well, why should one not enjoy a merry evening after a well-spent day?
Well spent, I'm afraid I can't take credit for that.
But I can, you know.
Dr. Rank, you must have been occupied with some scientific investigation today?
Exactly.
Thus, listen, little Nora talking about scientific investigation.
And may I congratulate you on the result?
Indeed, you may.
Was it favorable, then?
The best possible for both doctor and patient. Certainty.
Certainty?
Absolute certainty. So, wasn't I entitled to make a merry evening of it after that?
Yes, indeed you were, Dr. Rank.
I think so too, so long as you don't have to pay for it in the morning.
Oh, well, one can't have anything in this life without paying for it.
Are you fond of fancy dress balls, Dr. Rank?
Yes, if there is a fine lot of pretty costumes.
Then tell me, what shall we two wear at the next?
Little featherbrain, are you thinking of the next already?
We two? Yes, I shall tell you. You shall go as a good fairy.
Yes, but what do you suggest as an appropriate costume for that?
Let your wife go dressed just as she is in everyday life.
That was really very prettily turned. But won't you tell us what you'll be?
Yes, I've quite made up my mind about that.
Well?
At the next fancy dress ball, I shall be invisible.
That's a good joke.
There is a big black hat. Have you never heard of hats that make you invisible? If you put one on, no one can see you.
That's quite right.
But I'm clean forgetting what I came here for. Helmer, give me a cigar. One of the dark Havanas.
With the greatest pleasure.
Thank you.
Let me get you a light.
Thanks. And now, goodbye.
Goodbye, goodbye, dear old man.
Sleep well, Dr. Rank.
Thank you for that wish.
Wish me the same.
You? Well, if you want me to sleep well. And thanks for the light.
He was drunk more than he ought.
Maybe. What are you going to do there, Torvald?
Emptying the letterbox, it is quite full. There will be no room to put the newspaper in tomorrow morning. What's this? Someone has been at the lock.
At the lock?
Yes, someone has. I should never have thought the maid. Here's a broken hairpin, nor it is one of yours.
Then it must have been the children.
You must get them out of those ways. There, at last I've got it open. Helen, put out the light over the door. Look at that. Look at what a heap of them there are. What on earth is
Oh, the
that?
letter, Torvald, now!
2 cards. Of Rank's.
Of Dr. Rank?
Yes, Dr. Rank. They're on top. He must have put them in when he went out.
Is there anything written on them?
There's a black cross over the name. Look there, what an uncomfortable idea. It's almost as if he were announcing his own death.
It is exactly what he is doing.
What? Do you know anything about that? Has he said anything to you?
Yes, he told me that when these cards came, it would be his leave taking from us. He means to shut himself up and die.
My poor old friend. Certainly I knew we shouldn't have him very long with us. So soon. So he shuts himself up like a wounded animal.
Well, if it has to happen, it is best it should be without a word. Don't you think so, Torvald?
It's so grown into our lives, I can't think of him as having gone out of them. He, with his sufferings and loneliness, was like a cloudy background to our sunlit happiness. Well, perhaps it is best so. For him, anyway, perhaps for us too, Nora. We two are quite thrown upon each other now. Oh, Nora, Nora, I don't feel as if I could hold you tight enough. Do you know, I have often wished that you might be threatened by some great danger, so that I might risk my life's blood and everything for your sake.
Now you must read your letters, Torvald.
No, not tonight. I want to be with you, my darling wife.
With the thought of your friend's death.
You're right. It has affected us both. Something ugly has come between us. The thought of the horrors of death. We must try and rid our minds of that. But until then, we will each go to our own rooms.
Good night, Torvald.
Good night, my little singing bird. Sleep sound, Nora. Now I will go and read my letters.
Never to see him again. Never to see my children again either. Never. The icy black water. The unfathomable depths. If only it were over. He has got it now. Now he is reading it. Goodbye, Torvald and my children!
Nora! What is this? Do you know what is in this letter?
Yes, I know. Let me go. Let me get out!
Where are you going?
You shan't save me, Torvald.
True. Is this true what I have read here? Horrible. No. It is impossible that it can be true.
It is true. I have loved you above everything else in the world.
Don't let us have any silly excuses.
Oh, Torvald!
Miserable creature, what have you done?
Let me go. You shall not suffer for my sake. You shall not take it upon yourself.
No tragic airs, please. Here you will stay and give me an explanation. Do you understand what it is you have done? Answer me. Do you understand what it is you have done?
Yes. Now I am beginning to understand thoroughly.
A horrible awakening. All these 8 years, she was my joy and pride. A hypocrite? A liar? Worse, a criminal? The unutterable ugliness of it all. For shame, for shame! I ought to have known something of the sort would have happened. I ought to have foreseen it. All your father's want of principle. Be silent! All your father's want of principle has come out in you. No religion, no morality, no sense of duty. How I am punished for having winked at what he did. I did it for your sake. This is how you repay me.
Yes, that's just it.
It is now you have destroyed all my happiness. It is horrible to think of. I am in the power of an unscrupulous man. He can do what he likes with me, ask anything he likes of me, give me any orders he pleases. I dare not refuse. I am forced to sink to such miserable depths because of a thoughtless woman.
When I'm out of the way, you will be free.
No fine speeches, please. Your father always had plenty of those ready, too. What good would it be to me if we were out of the way, as you say? Not the slightest. He can make the affair known everywhere, and if he does, I may be falsely suspected of having been a party to your criminal action. Very likely, people will think that it was I who prompted you, that it was I who was behind it all. I have to thank you for all of this. You, whom I have cherished during the whole of our married life. Do you understand now what it is you have done for me?
Yes.
It's so incredible I cannot take it in. Well, we must come to some understanding. Take off that shawl, take it off, I tell you. I must try and appease him some way or another. The matter must be hushed up at any cost. And as for things between you and me, everything must appear as it was before. But naturally, only in the eyes of the world. You will remain in my house, that is a matter of course. I shall not allow you to bring up the children. To think that I should be obliged to say so to one whom I have loved so dearly and to one whom I still... No. From this point forward, happiness is not the question. All that concerns us now is to save the remains, the fragments, the appearance. What's that? So late, can the worst, can he... Hide yourself, Nora, say you're ill.
A letter for the mistress?
Give it to me. Yes, it is from him. Shall not have it, I will read it myself.
Yes, read it.
I scarcely have the courage to do so. It may mean ruin for both of us. No, I must know. Nora! No, I must read it again. Yes, it is true. I am saved, Nora, I am saved.
And I?
Yes, you too, of course. Look here, he sends you his bond back, says that he regrets and repents the happy change in his life. Oh, never mind what he says. We are saved, Nora. No one can do anything to you now. Oh, Nora. No, first I must destroy this hateful thing. Let me see. No, I won't look at it any longer. The whole thing shall be nothing but a bad dream to me. There, now it doesn't exist any longer. He says that since Christmas Eve, These must have been 3 dreadful days for you, Nora.
I have fought a hard fight these 3 days.
And suffered agonies and seen no way out, but... No, we won't call any of those horrors to mind. We will only shout with joy and say, it's all over, it's all over! Listen to me, Nora, you don't seem to realize that it's all over. What is this cold, set face? Oh, my poor Nora, I quite understand. You don't feel as if I could have forgiven you yet. But it's true, Nora. I have forgiven you everything. I know that what you did out of love for me.
That is true.
You have loved me as a wife ought to love her husband, only you had not the knowledge to justify the means you used. Do you suppose it makes you any the less dear to me because you do not know how to act on your own responsibility? No, only lean on me, and I will advise you and direct you. I should not be a man if this womanly helplessness did not give you a double attractiveness in my eyes. You must not think any more about the hard things I said in my first moment of consternation when I thought everything was going to overwhelm me. I have forgiven you everything, Nora. I swear to you I have forgiven you.
Thank you for your forgiveness.
No, don't go. What are you doing in there?
Taking off my fancy dress.
Yes, do. Try and calm yourself and make your mind easy again, my frightened little singing bird. Be at rest and feel secure. I have broad wings to shelter you under. How warm and cozy our home is, Nora. Here is shelter for you. Here I will protect you like a hunted dove that I have saved from a hawk's claws. I will bring peace to your poor, beating heart. It will come, little by little, Nora, believe me. Tomorrow morning you will look upon it all quite differently. Soon everything will be just as it was before. Very soon, you won't need me to assure you that I have forgiven you. You will yourself feel the certainty that I have done so. Can you suppose I should ever think of such a thing as repudiating you, or even reproaching you? You have no idea what a true man's heart is like, Nora. There's something so indescribably sweet and satisfying to a man in the knowledge that he has forgiven his wife, forgiven her freely, with all his heart. It is as if that had made her as it were, doubly his own. And she has, in a way, become both wife and child to him. So you shall be for me after this, my scared, little, helpless darling. Have no anxiety about anything, Nora, only be frank and open with me, and I will serve as will and conscience both to you and the children and everyone who may come into our lives. Mrs. Lind, my dear Nora, what is this? Have you not gone to bed? Have you changed your things?
Yes, Torvald, I have changed my things now.
But what for so late as this?
I shall not sleep tonight.
But you will want to.
It is not so very late. Sit down, Torvald. We have much to say to one another.
Nora, what is this cold, set face?
Sit down. It will take some time.
You alarm me, Nora, and I don't understand you.
That is just it. You don't understand me. And I have never understood you either, until tonight. You mustn't interrupt me, and you must listen to what I say. Torvald, this is a settling of accounts.
What do you mean by that?
Isn't there something that strikes you as strange in our sitting here like this?
What's that?
We have been married now 8 years. Does it not occur to you that this is the first time that we two, husband and wife, have sat together and had a serious conversation?
What do you mean by serious?
In all these 8 years, longer than that, from the very beginning of our acquaintance, we have never once shared a single word on any serious subject.
Could it be that I would be continually and forever telling you about worries you could not help me to bear?
I'm not speaking about business matters. I mean that we have never sat down together in earnest to try and get to the bottom of anything.
But my dear Nora, would it have been any good to you?
That is just it. You don't understand me. I have been greatly wronged, Torvald. First by Papa, and then by you.
By us two, who have loved you more than anyone else in the world.
You have never loved me. You have only thought it pleasant to be in love with me.
Nora, what do I hear you saying?
It is perfectly true, Torvald. When I was at home with Papa, he told me his opinion about everything. And so I had the same opinions. If I differed from him, I concealed the fact, because he would not have liked it. He called me his doll child, and he played with me just as I used to play with my dolls. And when I came here to live with you...
What sort of an expression is that to use about our marriage?
I mean that I was simply transferred from Papa's hands to yours. We've arranged everything according to your tastes, and so I have the same taste as you. Or else I've pretended to. I'm really not quite sure which. I think sometimes the one and sometimes the other. When I look back on it, it is as though I've been living here as a poor woman, just from hand to mouth. I have existed merely to perform tricks for you, Torvald. But you would have it so. You and Papa have committed a great sin against me. It is your fault I have made nothing of my life.
How unreasonable and how ungrateful you are, Nora. Have you not been happy here?
No, I haven't thought I was, but I have never been happy.
Not happy?
No, only merry. And you have been so kind to me. But our home has been nothing but a playroom. I have been your doll wife, just as at home I was Papa's doll child. And here the children have been my dolls. I often thought it great fun when you played with me, just as they thought it great fun when I played with them. That is what our marriage has been, Torvald.
There is some truth in what you say, however exaggerated and strange your view of it is. But for the future, it will be different. Playtime shall be over, and lesson time shall begin.
Whose lessons, mine or the children's?
Both yours and the children's, my darling Nora.
Alas, you are not the man to educate me into being a proper wife for you.
And you can say that!
How am I fitted to bring up the children?
Nora!
Didn't you say so yourself, just a moment ago? That you dare not trust me to bring them up?
In a moment of anger, why do you pay any heed to that?
Indeed, you were quite right. I am not fit for the task. There is another task I must undertake first. I must stand quite alone if I'm to understand everything. I must educate myself. You are not the man to help me in that. And that is why I'm going to leave you now.
What do you say?
I must be stand quite alone if I'm to learn everything about myself and all that is around me.
Nora!
I'm sure Christine will take me in for the night. And tomorrow I shall go home. I mean to my old home. It will be easiest for me to find something to do there.
You blind, foolish
I
woman!
must try and get some sense, Torvald.
So you forsake your home, your family, and your children? And you don't consider what people will think?
I cannot consider that at all. I only know that this is necessary for me.
It's shocking. So this is how you would neglect your most sacred of duties.
What do you consider my most sacred duties?
Do I need to tell you that? Are they not the duties to your husband and your children?
I have other duties just as sacred.
That you have not? What duties could those be?
Duties to myself.
Before all else, you are a wife and a mother.
I don't believe that any longer. I believe that before all else, I'm a reasonable human being. Or at all events, I must try and become one. I know quite well, Torvald, that most people would think you right, and that your view is the kind to be found in books. But I can no longer content myself with what most people think is right, or with what is found in books. I must think things over for myself and get to know them. That is why I cannot remain here any longer.
Can you not suppose you know your own position in your family? Have you no reliable guide in matters such as that? Have you no religion?
I'm afraid, Torvald, I do not know exactly what religion is.
Nor what do I hear you saying?
I only know what the clergyman told me when I went to be confirmed. He told me that religion was this and that and the other. When I'm away from all this, and I'm alone, I will look into that matter as well. I will find if what the clergyman said is true, or if at all events, if it is true for me.
This is unheard of in a girl of your age. But if religion cannot lead you right, let me try and awaken your conscience. I assume you have some moral sense? Or answer me, am I to believe you have none?
I assure you, Torvald, that is not an easy question for me to answer. I really don't know. I only know that you and I look at it in quite a different light. I'm learning, too, that the law isn't quite another thing from what I thought it. According to it, a woman has no right to spare her dying father, or to save her husband's life. I cannot believe that.
You think and talk like a child. You don't understand the conditions of the world in which you live.
No, I don't. But I'm going to try. I'm going to try and see if I can make out who is right, the world or I.
You are ill, Nora. You are delirious. I almost think you are out of your mind.
I've never felt my mind so clear and certain as tonight.
And it is with a clear and certain mind that you forsake your husband and your children?
Yes.
Then there is only one possible explanation.
What is that?
You do not love me anymore.
But that is just it.
Nora, you can say that.
It gives me great pain, Torvald, for you have always been so kind to me. But I cannot help it anymore. I do not love you.
Is that a clear and certain conviction, too?
Yes, absolutely clear and certain.
Can you tell me what I have done to forfeit your love?
Yes, indeed I can. It was tonight, when the wonderful thing did not happen.
Explain yourself better. I don't understand you.
I have waited so patiently for 8 years. For goodness knows, I knew that wonderful things don't just happen every day. But when this horrible misfortune had come upon me, I was quite sure that the wonderful thing was going to happen at last. When Krogstad's letter was sitting out there, never for a moment did I consider that you would accept to this man's conditions. I was so absolutely certain that you would say to him, publish the thing to the whole world. And when that was done, you...
Yes, what then after I had exposed my wife to shame and disgrace?
I was so absolutely certain that you would take it upon yourself and say, I am the guilty one.
Nora!
You mean that I never would have accepted such a sacrifice on your part? Of course not. But what would my assurances have been worth against yours? That was the wonderful thing that I had hoped for and feared. And it was to prevent that I wanted to kill myself.
My dear Nora, I would gladly work night and day for you, bear sorrow and want for your sake. No man would sacrifice his honor for the one he loves.
It is a thing hundreds of thousands of women have done.
Oh, you think and talk like a heedless child.
Maybe. But you neither think nor talk like the man I could bind myself to. As soon as your fear was over, it was not fear for what threatened me, but what might happen to you. As soon as it was over, it was as if nothing at all had happened. And there's your little skylark, your doll, which in future you would treat with doubly gentle care, because it was so brittle and fragile. Torvald, it was then that it dawned on me that for 8 years I have been living here with a strange man, and had borne him 4 children. I can't bear to think of it. I could tear myself into little bits.
I see. An abyss has opened between us. There's no denying it. Nora, would it not be possible to fill it up?
As I am now, I am no wife for you.
I have it in me to become a different man.
Perhaps. But only if your doll is taken away from you.
But to part from you, Nora. No, I can't understand that idea.
That makes it all the more certain that it must be done.
Not now, Nora. Wait until tomorrow.
I cannot spend the night in a strange man's room.
But can't we live here like brother and sister?
You know very well that would not last long. Goodbye, Torvald. I will not see the little ones. I know they're in better hands than mine. As I am now, I can be of no use to them.
But someday, Nora, someday.
How am I to tell? I have no idea what is going to become of me.
But you are my wife, no matter what becomes of you.
Listen to me, Torvald. I've heard that when a wife forsakes her husband's house, as I'm doing now, he is legally free from all his obligations towards her. And in any case, I free you from your obligations. You are not to feel yourself bound in the slightest way, no more than I shall. There should be perfect freedom on both sides. See, here is your ring back. Give me mine.
That too?
That too.
Here it is.
Now it is all over. I've put the keys away already. The maids know everything about what goes on in this house, even better than I shall. Tomorrow, when I've left her, Christine will come back and pack up the things that I brought with me from home. I'll have them sent after me.
All over. All over. Listen to me, Nora. Will you never think of me again?
I know I shall often think of you, and the children, and this house.
Nora, may I write to you?
No, never. You must not do that.
But at least let me send you.
No, nothing.
Let me help you if you're in want.
I can receive nothing from a strange man.
Nora, can I never be anything more than a stranger to you?
Torvald, the most wonderful thing of all would have to happen.
Tell me what that would be.
Both you and I would have to be so changed that... Oh, Torvald, I don't believe any longer in wonderful things happening.
But I will. Tell me, so changed that...
That our life together would be a real wedlock. Goodbye, Torvald.
Nora! Nora! Empty. She is gone. The most wonderful thing of all? Bye.
Okay, yeah.
We're the housemates.
Yay!
Wow, I'm so glad.
We live.
Yeah.
What?
We were back.